Hi, all. I am Franny Shepherd-Bates, and I'm the director of Shakespeare in Prison at Detroit Public Theater. We've been working with folks in prison since 2012 and have had the pleasure of working with many alums of our program since their release in the past 2.5 years. And today, I am pleased as punch to be here with a team of alums who have been collaborating with me and our assistant director, Matthew Van Meter, as we've been developing the manuscript of our very own critical edition of Richard III. Rather than do my usual excited rambly thing, I'm gonna play a brief teaser video that we made about the project about 1.5 years ago. There have been some updates since then, but it'll still give you a great idea of what we've been up to.
Shakespeare should be for like everybody. Shakespeare is for everybody.
Sometimes people will come in with Shakespeare and be like, this is what it is, you know? That's what makes Shakespeare irrelevant. If you make it something that is only for certain people, then it is. But what we know is that at its core, it's not, right?
When you study the works, it's amazing how you connect with all these different characters and you see something in you learn about humanity.
I had never thought about the power of love. I had, because my crime had a lot to do with love and betrayal and things like that. Shakespeare could have wrote my story.
Having to explore areas that Shakespeare has touched on for hundreds of years has made me learn things about myself that I didn't expect Shakespeare to teach me.
I hope to do this the rest of my life.
Well, we're gonna reread the scene in a second here.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
You mean all of us?
Yes!
We're gonna read it?
Yes!
Because that conversation was, that was represented in those notes, they're almost in order, and they all happened in one session, in one part of a conversation, because it's that scene.
Right.
Right?
Really just discussing it kind of like we did when we were on the inside, just in a smaller group.
Where is it that I'm getting insight into something that I don't understand through the experiences of someone whose life is really different from me? And where am I seeing myself reflected where I didn't expect to see myself reflected, and what does that mean?
You know what would have been really badass is if she was planning revenge at that point.
I mean, she was, right? She's cursing him at the top of the scene.
Yeah, no, I mean, what if that was it? What if that was her motivation?
Did that ever come up at the time?
No, I don't think so.
In my vulnerability, I would have just been okay, you've killed everybody else here. Take my head too.
What if Anne never actually was in love with her husband?
How do you square that with her really over-the-top monologue at the top of the scene?
I'd say it's like the people that were surrounding Stalin after his death. I mean, you act like you love the monarch, and you, oh my God, he's dead. You don't really care, but you need to put up a good front.
Well, then it's just a shift of power, because then she's getting what she wants.
We talk about Richard being a sociopath, but we never talk about Anne being a sociopath. She could have been one.
She could have been.
I'd like to take a moment before we move on to note that this project has been funded by Michigan Humanities Council and the National Endowment for the Humanities, and we could not have done any of this without their support. And I also want to make sure that you all know that there's going to be an updated sample of what the book might look like that you can download on Sketch. And now I want to turn this over to 4 of the book's contributors and our assistant director, who will be the moderator, so I don't have to be. First up is Jessica Christopher. Take it away, Jessica.
So I'm Jessica. I was involved with Shakespeare in Prison for 4 seasons. I was introduced to the program through a friend of mine. Her father actually was a CEO, and it was the only program that he spoke highly of. So that's how I got involved. And I stayed involved because the hours spent in that auditorium were the only hours during the whole week where I felt like an actual person. People actually embraced who I was and saw me as more than a prisoner, which I really appreciate. It's very hard to find that behind bars. I stay involved now because Shakespeare in Prison continues to push the envelope, and I'm always down for some envelope pushing.
That was Jessica Christopher, who played Queen Elizabeth in our production of Richard III in 2016, 2017. And next up is Michaela Hull, who played Richard III himself. Michaela, take it away.
Hi, my name is Michaela Hull. I got involved with Shakespeare after watching a play my first year, Incarcerated at WHV. I really liked the program, watching it, so I decided I wanted to give it a try and to come out of my comfort zone. I stayed involved because of the work and the time that it took. I'm 31, a Coloradan, and I think I'm pretty badass. Also, I continue to stay in Shakespeare because I get to be around just the people I was around for multiple years, and I feel like each and every one of them brought different parts that were really good, different aspects that I can definitely appreciate and use in my own life. And also because it gives me a chance to look deep within myself and try to better myself and hopefully pass that on to someone else. And I'm turning it over to Matt.
Thanks, Michaela. Next up is Asia Johnson, who didn't perform in the 2016-2017 season, but spent months working on Lady Anne in Richard III. Asia.
Hi, everybody. My name is Asia. It was a cold, blistering, windy, wintry day when I walked into the auditorium at WHV for the first time to be involved with Shakespeare in Prison. And although it was cold, although it was early in the morning, I decided to stay because of all of the amazing camaraderie amongst the women. You too, Matt. Everyone was so welcoming to me, and it was the first time that I actually felt like I was a human being, as Jessica said. You're treated pretty poorly in prisons, and the opportunity to become your full self or to connect to memories of who you used to be pre-prison, you want to hold on to those experiences. And that's what those 2.5 hours in that auditorium do. They connect you to who you used to be, but also who you want to be in the future. And building upon all of the things that I learned in Shakespeare, it was a bridge to who I am today. And the reason that I've stayed so long involved in Shakespeare in Prison is because mainly Matt and Franny, you two have been so supportive and have been rocks for me. And I remember when I had a job interview and Matt helped prepare me and Franny helped prepare me. And that is why if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be living in Los Angeles right now. I wouldn't be pursuing any of my dreams had it not been for Shakespeare in Prison, all of the women involved and the facilitators. It's been one of the most life-changing experiences of my entire life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Asia. And next up is Sarah Lauderdale. Sarah played the ex-queen, Margaret, in Richard III, the beginning of her 3-season star turn, which also included other characters in subsequent seasons. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lauderdale. I did Shakespeare for 3 seasons, Richard III being my first season. What brought me there was actually I had a bunkie that was involved in the program, and she highly recommended it. And I really had not a lot of options of things to do. When you first become incarcerated, you're waiting on being able to be in any kind of programming. So when I was able to finally get into Shakespeare, it was basically there for something to fill some time. And it actually turned into a lot more than just filling time. I built friendships in there, bonds in there that will last of a lifetime. I felt like a human, like everybody's saying, like you felt like a real person again, and not just somebody with a number. You had a name in Shakespeare. I did a lot of growing in there. It actually helped me kind of figure out how I was able to do what I did to get myself in there, and help me really grow and learn how I'm going to not continue those behaviors. I did a lot of self-analyzing through character work, and comparing characters to, myself and my own actions. So that is really what Shakespeare did for me. I continue to stay in it because I really believe in the work that this program does for not only prisoners, but women, especially women inmates. I really feel like it's important for them to have a safe place to not only, do what I did, analyze their own self, but to be able to go in there and create friendships and bonds with people that they might not ever be able to do in a different setting. So that's why I continue to stay. It's very important. And I love being able to connect with the women that I was inside with during, this work with the book, and continually just staying involved with Franny and Matt and, the other Shakespeare facilitators.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And I'll round it out. I'm Matthew Van Meter. I first got involved with Shakespeare in Prison back in 2013 with the Romeo and Juliet season, and was, after taking a break for grad school, have been a facilitator with Shakespeare in Prison ever since, and then stepped into the assistant director role a couple of years ago. So got hooked and never got unhooked. So here I am. And I've been sort of coordinating this Unruly book project, which was cooked up by one of our ensemble members at our men's prison, and executed by the women you see on the screen before you, and by some others who weren't able to be here. And it's been a real privilege to be a part of it. I am, when I'm not doing assistant director stuff for Shakespeare in Prison, I'm also an author, journalist, and an educator. But Shakespeare in Prison is really at the heart of what I do. So without further ado, I wanted to ask each of you, and starting with Jessica, what excites you about this book project? What made you want to be part of it? And what has the experience of working on it been like?
Yeah, so admittedly, Richard III is not one of my favorite texts of Shakespeare's. But the fact that I would get to work with this group of people again is why I decided to do this. When I left prison, I never thought that I would be able to have a relationship with any of the facilitators. And we got this wonderful gift of Shakespeare Beyond Bars, and it's been life-changing for so many of us. It's really hard to leave prison and not be able to continue those relationships with people that watched you grow and become a better person and understand what you've been through. So the fact that we get to do this huge project together has just been, it's been amazing. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. There were moments where there was conflict, and that happened behind bars too. We were talking about our opinions on the text, and we're bringing in our own experiences, and so there's moments of vulnerability. I think I saw that more outside prison when we were doing this book than when we were talking inside, which I thought was really great. And also, what was interesting to me was how perspectives changed about the characters from when we were inside and now that we're home. And I'd be interested to see how they change in another 10 years, just to see how our life experiences change how we feel about characters.
Michaela, same question. What excites you about the book project? What made you want to be part of it? And what's it been like working on it?
Yes, what excites me about the book project is, like Jessica said, you get a chance to like really work the people that we were in there with. I kind of just like stole that, but she's right. There is not a lot of people we can connect with out here. And I know we didn't always get along, and probably people still don't like me now, but I really enjoy those moments and take those moments to heart, especially when Jessica would edit me. Man.
What about the bookness of it? Like the fact that
yeah,
our words are going to be in print.
Yeah, I was getting there. Yeah, I also enjoy that we're making history. Anytime you're in a book, you might not feel like it, but you're making history. One day, maybe 100 years from now, kind of like Shakespeare, someone's gonna pick up this book and read it and be like, get to read about us being in it. And to me, that is a complete thrill to know that, yeah, I finally made history. I mean, I guess I have before, but this is in a positive way. This book excites me to no end. It's been tough working on it, especially with my schedule, and people have things going on. It's a tough time of year, but just being able to be around the same people that I've been around for a long time, and like them or not, I consider them family because I know that I've spent so much time with them. So it just excites me for that opportunity, and the opportunity that we get to share our work with others who might be in the same position. Yeah. So yeah, that's the exciting thing about it.
Thanks, Michaela. Asia, what about you? What was exciting about the book project, and what's the experience been like?
I don't know if you can tell, but Jessica and I are always like on the same wavelength, because the third did not excite me in any way, shape, or form. I was really bummed when I found out we were doing this book and we were doing this play for the book. But again, the facilitators, Matt, you and Franny, can ask me to fly to the moon and I'll probably go with you. You've cast some sort of Shakespearean spell on me, and anything you ask me to do, I'll do. But after the first couple of weeks of like rereading this play, I realized that this was a play that needed an examination from us. Richard was a character who we all deemed evil, and I had a lot of conflict with deeming anyone evil and incapable of growth or change, and undeserving of compassion. And so many people that are thrown away behind those gates have been deemed bad or evil or undeserving. And so I constantly tried to play devil's advocate with, well, what about Richard's trauma? What about his childhood issues? What about his mom not loving him? What about in 30 years when he repents, not religiously, but like just makes amends for all of the ills and the trauma that he's caused? And so taking a deeper dive into this text has definitely changed my perspective on how I judge other human beings, and really shown me that, always taking that extra step to find out what's underneath, and getting to the human core of somebody and getting to their heart is really what's most important. And I know we didn't get to do that with Richard because, he died. But I think that Shakespeare has this great, great gift of getting us to see all sides of humanity. And that's what excites me about this book. Also, again, like Michaela said, we are making history, and someone will read our words, somebody will watch this video, and maybe they've been in a position where Shakespeare wasn't meant for them, or they thought it was too hard or too difficult or too distant from their intellectual capabilities or from anything, and they will see that, us women who were sitting in a prison were able to actually make meaningful dialogue about this book. So, I mean, it's exciting in every way for me. I'm so glad that I really stuck with it. I mean, there have been plays where midway through Romeo and Juliet, Othello, where I was like, I can't do it anymore. But again, like that Shakespearean spell has a way of like gluing you to the text, and you just can't get out of it.
Thanks so much, Asia. And Sarah, what about you? What excited you about the book and made you want to be a part of it? And what was it like working on it?
Originally, so you guys came to me with this project. I literally walked out the gates of Huron Valley and was presented with this project. So, I mean, as people coming out of prison, they know there's not a whole lot of things for them to like do right at first. You're busy trying to find things like a job and housing and, reconnecting with friends and family, but there's still a lot of time there that you really are trying to figure out, like, where do you belong in this outside world after being incarcerated, like trying to find your place. And this book gave me that in the beginning. It gave me a purpose. It gave me something, okay, I have this to do. I'm going to, and that's something that I needed personally, just to like hold myself accountable and, make sure I was keeping my mind occupied. So that was the beginning of it. And then also it turned into, I really enjoyed like continuing to work with the women that I'd worked with inside. And I love the idea of doing something that hadn't really been done before. And doing it with women, like it's groundbreaking, and showing that, we are more than just prisoners or ex-cons or whatever. We're intelligent. We have a voice. We have a purpose. We matter. And I feel like this book really, really shows those things. And I mean, working on it, yes, it became difficult at sometimes. I remember just myself a couple of times, of course, Asia playing the devil's advocate, like, trying to push us to think about Richard as a victim and Richard as, somebody that, can possibly, actually be a good person, who just made really bad decisions. It really helped me look at, my own, my own stereotypes. I'm a prisoner, I was a prisoner too, but yeah, I looked at him like, oh, he'll never change. He's a terrible human. But really that might not be the case. So I enjoyed like being challenged with those types of, other ideas. So I really liked that, even though it was challenging at times. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Okay. The next one I have is still about the book, but a little bit bigger picture. And, so the question is, how does this book celebrate Shakespeare? And how does this book indict Shakespeare? And Jessica, I'll start with you again.
So when I first saw this question, I was not super thrilled about it. But I am glad that we had to answer this question for the simple fact that as a group, I think we get in our Shakespeare bubble, and this kind of made us realize what we could accomplish through this book. I think that it celebrates Shakespeare because it shows that Shakespeare's works are relatable. And we do that because we talk about our own lived experiences, our traumas, our hurts. And then it's kind of like what has already been said, because, Asia always can read my mind. But basically, like, we humanize it. And I think that needs to be done. I think it indicts because although we are showing that Shakespeare is relatable to all people, we also are pointing out that not everybody has been introduced to Shakespeare, and not really necessarily in the right way either. Like, how is Shakespeare being presented to others? And I just think that maybe we don't present it. And what we do in this book is we don't just present it, we discuss it. And through that discussion, that's where we humanize it.
Awesome. So to Michaela, same question. So how does the book celebrate Shakespeare, and how does the book indict Shakespeare?
I think it indicts Shakespeare by showing that it was designed for the pinnacle of the socioeconomic ladder. It was not designed for what people would stereotype as minorities or the people at the bottom. And it really shows you how it was really made for a certain class, and that they never really tried to, even though it's a form of art, even art became biased in a way. It never really came into maybe our middle class upbringings. It wasn't something that was presented to us and saying, here, this is how you can, you can read these certain texts, and that's evolved over time, but truly stayed true to the true to the focus, true to the point of showing you how human nature really just over a linear period just stays the same. And this is how you can adapt your own self and evolve and bring up your own education standards. That wasn't meant for us. So I think by us doing it, we really show its design flaws, or the way people use it that can create flaws. I think it celebrates it by having us in it. We are taking this work and we are putting our own spin on it, not really veering off the text very much, but you're seeing our faces, our different faces, and not just one, but maybe faces that they would commonly like, but people that think completely differently from the time frame that it was originally brought in. I think it really celebrates that. It celebrates it by showing, yes, prisoners are normal, everyday people, just like, your lawmakers or your cops are everyday people after you take off your uniform. It finally gives us a chance to show our value other than our jacket or our number. It really, sorry about that, guys. It really brings out our artistic vision for Shakespeare, and it lets you just embrace us. So that's how I think we celebrate Shakespeare.
Awesome. Thanks, Michaela. Asia, how does this book celebrate and indict Shakespeare?
I think just the fact that we are dissecting Shakespeare's work, we could have chosen any great writer, any great playwright, and we chose Shakespeare. And that is a testament to his talent. Like Michaela said, Shakespeare's work wasn't meant for minorities or the poor population. And the people in power often use access to education as a way to oppress people. And if you don't have that access, then you go without learning these great plays. And it's not about the plays themselves, but it's about what you get out of the plays and what you learn about yourself while you're reading the plays and what the plays are revealing to you. And so I think that, again, the fact that we have chosen Shakespeare, and us formerly incarcerated women, Black, brown, white, we have the power right now to do with Shakespeare's work whatever we want to do with it. And I think that's how we're indicting it, because it wasn't meant for those who are incarcerated, and we're doing this. I think that's how we're definitely indicting. And I don't know if this was Shakespeare's intention to make it inaccessible to people like us, but it definitely, after he's passed and people who are in a position to offer art and offer these plays, theaters and that whole industry. So we're not just indicting Shakespeare. I think we're indicting the entire industry of theater by writing this book and showing that not only are we accessing it, but it needs to be accessible to people who for as long as we can remember, who it hasn't been really accessible to. So I just blabbered that whole answer, and I'm so sorry. But yes, we are celebrating by reading him and writing this book together, but we are indicting him and it's because of those same reasons. And it deserves to be indicted. Everyone deserves to have access to his work. It is relatable on every level. It has stood the test of time. Every play, even if it doesn't pique your interest in the beginning, by midway or by the end, you're like, wow, I'm really glad that I read that. I'm really glad that I was involved in the reading of this work. So I'm again, like, just thrilled and amazed and grateful that I've been able to celebrate and indict Shakespeare.
Asia, I'll take blabbering like that any day. Sarah, what about you? How does the book celebrate and indict Shakespeare to you?
I think it celebrates him. A lot of this is going to sound like the other women, but I feel like his work definitely transcends, age, race, level of education, your socioeconomic status. Like, his work, you can relate to it on any level. Whoever you are, there's something you'll be able to find in his work that you're like, you know what, that sounds like me, or I've experienced something like that, which I think is why it works so well in for people that are incarcerated and in the prison system, because you'll find people in there through all walks of life, and it definitely is a way of bringing people together, which is another way I think that celebrates him. His stories, stories bring people together, whether they're, a true telling of something, some sort of history or whatever, or, or fiction, people listen to stories and it brings them together, and it doesn't matter who you are. And I felt like that's really what it did for us. So it celebrated him in that way. I do feel like it indicts him too, because again, I remember, being in high school and a Shakespeare class was considered like AP. So it wasn't necessarily available for people that might be struggling academically or whatever. So it's always been this, you have to be this level of education, this color, this, level of wealth. It doesn't, you think about Shakespeare growing up, and I didn't even think that I was, capable of reading him. When I signed up for the class, I was like, I'm never going to understand this, because I've never done this. I didn't think that, it was something that I could do. So yeah, it indicts him in that way. And I feel like this book makes it important for us to show that anybody can read it. It doesn't matter who you are, you can read it, you can gain something from it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
One other question, start again with Jessica. So how does this book break down stereotypes of incarcerated people, returned citizens, or Shakespeare and Shakespeare's texts?
Well, I think it shows that incarcerated people are intelligent, and returning citizens do have something to give back to the community, and we continue to live our lives and become productive, and we can change. We are not the worst thing that we've ever done. I think that the comparisons that we have made between the characters in all of the Shakespeare plays that we've examined and performed, and between those characters in our own lives, we have learned not to judge the characters. Well, Franny has told us that a lot of times, don't judge don't judge them. Just like we don't want people to judge us. And like Asia already touched on, it shows us like why we made the choices that we made and why other people might make the choices that they make. So that also is going to show everyone else that there's more to it than just that simple act that led to incarceration. Very rarely are people either good or bad. There's always gray matter there. And And so I think that by allowing us to really look at characters that way, we have been able to dig into ourselves, and being vulnerable in that, in the process of the book, that's going to show others, you know, we're people too. And we deserve second chances, and we shouldn't judge others, just, you know, like we shouldn't judge these characters. So I think we're breaking down stereotypes in so many respects. I'm really excited about the book.
Me too. But Michaela, what do you think? How does the book break down stereotypes of incarcerated people, returned citizens, and stereotypes about Shakespeare in the text?
Dang. Endless as in, I mean, there's just so many quantum dynamics that it touches on. Like, it just shows how much difference a person can make, and how much difference it makes when you dive into your own feelings or moral standards and just go past what you figure is your wall. You know, I feel like each of us has, like, at least like when I'm working, I feel like there's like a boundary which I set for myself, and I think, oh, I can't go any farther than this, or everything's black and white, I can't see past this. And learning from other people breaks open that wall, and sometimes it's frustrating and it's hard to do, but doing that opens up so many other possibilities. I feel like Shakespeare's text does that for us, and it allows us to really see things through other eyes that we wouldn't have seen them before.
Michaela, can I ask you, do you hope it'll do that for the readers of the book too, the way it's done it for you as an actor and participant?
Yes. And I think that just Shakespeare's text alone, it really does that. And I feel like with all of our work together, us as people, it will help them and break that wall of, oh no, I can't do this because I'm a certain way, or I'm a prisoner, you know? I think it'll bust that right open, and they're like, okay, well, I can read this. This is for me. And then it'll just show them, no, all reading is for you, and nobody is stopped because of who they are. And yes, like Jessica says, people do deserve a second chance, and they can realize, yeah, I might have done these things, but that's not who I am. That's something I have done, but I can also learn from. You know, you don't have to just stop there. I feel like that's I kind of messed that up, but I feel like that it breaks down walls for us.
That's beautiful. Thank you. No, that's great. Thanks, Michaela. Asia, how does this book to you break down stereotypes of incarcerated people, returned citizens, or Shakespeare and his texts?
A little while ago, Franny asked me which character or who in Shakespeare do I relate most to? And if this were like 5 or 6 years ago, I would have said, oh, definitely Juliet from Romeo and Juliet. Because I was that girl in love who couldn't see past the love and couldn't see past that one person. And now, having been home and doing different things, I told Franny that I now relate most with Shakespeare himself, because he was the author of all of these stories. And all of us are writing we're rewriting history. If it were up to the warden or people who are in power that are incarcerating people every single day, we would be we would be caught up in the cycle of going back and forth to jail and prisons. But all of us have bucked against the system, and we are all successful in our own rights, doing great things. And just the fact that we can sit here and talk about Shakespeare and talk about other things too, because I can call Matt, or I can call Franny, I can call Jessica, and I can talk about, oh my God, like salary negotiations. Who would have ever thought that I'd be negotiating a salary 2 years after coming home from prison? And I credit, my time in Shakespeare in prison for, the success that I've experienced since being home. And I know that this isn't it for me. Just like I know that regardless of where any of us are at right now, currently in our journeys, we can do more, we will do more. And I think Shakespeare's characters have shown us that. They've shown us that you can allow things to stop you. You can allow things to break you down, and maybe you hear a rumor and you turn into Othello, and now you're wild with anger, or you're like Juliet and you get depressed and you do what she did. Or you're like Richard, or we can relate to all these different characters, and we can see that there is something different for us in our path if we choose so. And I think that that's how we're breaking down the stereotypes of formerly incarcerated people, because none of us are ever going to see the inside of those gates again. And that has a lot to do with our participation in this book and our participation in this group, period. The stereotypes have a way of like getting into your bones, and you sometimes second guess yourself, or you think, am I deserving of these things? Or am I what they tell me I am? And so it's up to us to like look in the mirror. And I think that if Shakespeare were looking back at us, he would tell us, you're writing your own story.
Thanks, Asia. Sarah, what about you? What about this book for you breaks down those stereotypes about incarcerated people, returned citizens, and Shakespeare himself?
So with listening to all the women, it kind of brought back a memory of a job interview that I went on when I was released. And part of the job interview was talking about, where I'd been, because I was very upfront and honest of, my past mistakes and, my incarceration. And I remember the interviewer being very like flattering, like, I just can't believe that, you have been to prison, and I can't believe, you are where you are. Like, I just don't see that. And at first, I thought about it as being very flattering, like, wow, like, that's awesome. Like, I don't look like I've been to prison. But then it kind of dawns on you, like, why do they think that somebody that looks like me or talks like me hasn't been to prison? And that's a stereotype right there. Like, so there's these stereotypes out there that, brown people or poor people or whoever they're the ones that are bad. They're bad, and they're the ones that are incarcerated. And it made me think, like, because of this program and the confidence that it built in me, I was able to go out there and give a good interview. And people don't understand that it doesn't have to do with the fact, being in prison didn't matter. Being a part of this program mattered. Building confidence, building, good self-esteem and relationships with people and people that support you. That's what matters. And I think that's how this program will help break down those stereotypes.
Yeah, and for readers of the book, what do you hope they get, even if they can't experience the program first person like that? All they have are your words on the page.
I really hope that they can look at that and relate and say, that I think that way, and they can see that, they aren't a bad person if they are in a whatever walk of life that they come from. I hope that they can look at that and say, well, man, she came from this position and they're doing a book, and that's amazing. And I'm hoping that would, show, like, it doesn't matter like where you come from or what you look like. It matters like what's inside, and like that's really like the person that you are. Like, you can change. And I hope that by reading a book and reading that, these incredible women have put this great thing together by collaborating together, that it will inspire others.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Mhm.
And thank you all of you. I'll have one more sort of follow-up question, but I wanted to let viewers know sort of where we're at with the book process. We're in the process of putting it together. We spent a long time having conversations, just scene by scene, really digging into the text with a number of our alums, including the 4 women who joined us today for this panel. We're also commissioning original artwork for the book from another of our alums from the women's prison in Michigan, and largely trying to put together all of the analysis and interpretations and recollections, and pair them as any good critical edition will, with relevant parts of the text, and then to include supplemental materials, and those will be essays and other written material that responds to the text or talks about experiences with this play and in the program. So we are in the process of tying all of that stuff together. We've got most of the material, and it mostly lives in a mess on Dropbox out in the cloud somewhere. But it really has been a privilege for me, I know, to work with the 4 of you, and with Franny and with all the other women, you know, both on the outside and on the inside right now, who have poured themselves into this project before it was even a project. I feel just incredibly lucky to be a part of that. And I should say too and particularly to the 4 women who are here, that, you know, as someone who has been reading these plays since, you know, I could read them, and has acted in them and taught them for years in various places, I've never learned as much about the characters in Shakespeare's plays as when I've done them in prison with you all. And I could go on, which I won't for the sake of time and because nobody else wants to hear about it, but I could talk to each of you for 20 minutes about the ways in which you specifically have altered the way I look at these plays, many of which I know kind of like the back of my hand. And so I'm incredibly lucky to have had that experience with you. So thank you for that. So to wrap things up, I want to ask our director, Franny Shepherd Bates, to come back on with us. There she is. So one more question, which is actually for you to ask a question. So we have this incredible community of people with the Shakespeare in Prisons Network that we have been working with this program for years. Some really close friends of the program, and some people who are not yet close friends of the program, but we would love to connect with and love to meet. And it is an unbelievable resource that has been put together, this conference and the Shakespeare in Prisons Network in general. So my question to you all, fellow panelists, is what questions do you have for the Shakespeare in Prisons Network? And what would you like those who are watching this as part of that network to think about between the time they watch this presentation and when we gather for the later interactive section? What should be on people's minds, and what questions do you have for folks? And Jessica, I'll start with you, and we'll just go in that same order.
So I would just like to know, if they were to do a book like this, which play would they pick and why?
Yeah, awesome. That's a great question. And that's a good reminder. I totally forgot to mention this. So thank you, Jessica. We are hoping, we envision this not as a one-off Richard III in prison, but as part of a series based on the plays that we've done, and also something that other prison theater ensembles could potentially get in on as sort of a genre. Great, awesome. Michaela, what questions do you have for the network of Shakespeare in Prison folks?
I was gonna ask how do they think, or if they think they could help us get it out to more people and into Black universities. But I'm actually going to ask, if you were able to go to a prison and do some sort of art or Shakespeare book, what have you, just art, what would you do?
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Michaela. Asia, what questions do you have about the book for the network?
I think I would like to ask each and every one of you, as thespians, as artists, as teachers, what are you doing every single day to make Shakespeare and other works more accessible to people who it wasn't originally intended for?
Great. Thank you, Asia. Sarah, what do you have? What questions do you have for the Shakespeare in Prisons network?
I would actually like to build on Asia's question a little bit. Not only asking them what they will do and what they can do, but do they have suggestions for us on what we can do as women and formerly incarcerated individuals to really get the message out there and help the women that are still inside?
Awesome. Great question. Thanks, Sarah. And Franny, what questions do you have for this wonderful network of ours?
So for this wonderful network of ours, I would like to ask also, now that we are, nearing the end of the beginning. I don't know why I always have to quote Churchill, but
just say it, Franny.
What I did. What I would like to ask the network, now that you know some more about the project and the process and the people who've been working on it, something we'd really love to know is what kind of supplemental materials should we be thinking about putting together that you could use in your work as a complement to the text and analysis that we've already been putting together. So if you can think of any kind of supplemental material that you want, please tell us, because maybe we can do it.
That's so funny. I also have that question. But I have another question, which is, so we've worked really hard on this thing, and we're really proud of it. And the man in our men's ensemble who came up with the idea, got out recently and was thrilled that we're still working on it. And I am too. And so one of our goals with all of this is to share it as widely as possible. Book publishing is not really like our jam as a group. We are a prison theater sort of group. So we would love suggestions from those of you in the network who know about such things, of imprints or institutions that would A, get what we are doing with this sort of funky critical edition exclusively by incarcerated women, and but also B, and really importantly, would not want to sensationalize or exploit the prison part of the project, who would be interested in it for the reasons that you all know are the right reasons, and not for the reasons that we all know some people are interested in such things. So that's my big question. And I think turn it to Franny to drum us out. And thank you all so much for your time, and for the panelists for your contributions. It's really, really great.
Thank you, definitely, Sarah, Jessica, Michaela, Asia, and all the other books contributors who are not on the panel tonight. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And we hope you enjoyed. And we're really excited to be sharing the project with you in its current phase. And then we're really excited to share whatever the next phase is with you as well.